Here we have the extension summary page. On this page it gives us a brief outline of all the extensions that are on the PBX. We can select which line number that we want to look at the PBX for here. We have our list of extension numbers, the description for each of them, how we want the call forwarded for each extension, how we want to identify the caller, the voicemail options, the call logs, the messages, and whether or not we want to record the call. Let's look at each of these individually. Let's first look at the extension. As you can see, we can enter an extension number here. This is the operator extension, and by default it's 0. This is a PIN used for administrative options like voicemail settings on the phone. At any time, you can hover over these question marks and they'll tell you exactly what that field is for. A first and last name for the directory, a description for the online account, and the ring-to number where we want to send that call. Click Save and go back to our extension summary page. Let's look at our call forwarding options. Our first is Direct Connect, meaning that we want to send the call directly to that ring-to number. And this is how many rings that we should try calling that number for before we send the call to voicemail if it's available, or hang up. Let's set it at 5. We could also choose to forward the call simultaneously to several numbers, sequentially to several numbers, queue the call, or direct connect. Let's look at each of those. Our first option is to forward the call simultaneously to several different operators. Let's plug another 2 possible operator numbers in there. And we'll go over a couple examples. Let's say on Monday and Tuesday, our first operator can accept calls. On Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, our second operator can accept calls. And our third can accept them on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, if somebody calls on Monday, that call will be forwarded to our first operator who's available between these 2 times. If he doesn't answer within the given number of rings, the call will go to voicemail or hang up. On Tuesday, it will call both the first and third operator at the same time. If neither of them answer, the call will then go to voicemail or hang up if there's no voicemail available. On Wednesday, a similar situation will happen, except that it will be operator 2 and 3 who will get the call at the same time. Again, if they don't answer, the call will go to voicemail or hang up if it's unavailable. On Thursday and Friday, it will only try the operator in slot number 2. Saturday and Sunday, it would go to voicemail or hang up. If we look at forwarding sequentially, it looks the exact same as forwarding simultaneously. The only difference is that we're going to send it to each of these operators one at a time. On Monday, only operator 1 for 5 rings, and then the call will go to voicemail or hang up. On Tuesday, the call will go to operator 1 first for 5 rings, and then operator 3 for 2 rings, and then voicemail, and then hang up. On Wednesday, a similar situation again, except that it will go to operator 2 first for 2 rings, then operator 3 for 2 rings, and then voicemail, or hang up if there's no voicemail. Call queuing is similar to both of the above options, except that we'll hold the callers in a queue until an agent becomes available if it's during that agent's schedule. Let's put that back to Direct Connect. Our next field is how to identify the caller. Simple Connect means we won't identify them in any way. But we can also choose Call Screening, where the caller will have to record their name, which will be played to you before you answer. Call Announce, where the system will let you know that a call is coming from the PBX before you answer. Or play a memo that you've previously recorded for that particular caller. Next, we have voicemail options for that extension. Our first option is whether to enable, disable, or force the voicemail on that extension. We can disable it entirely, which means the voicemail will never pick up. We can enable the voicemail to pick up after these number of rings here. Or we can force the voicemail to pick up without going to the ringtone number at all. Let's leave that unenabled for a second. Here again, we set the number of rings that we want the voicemail to answer on. Here, we put an email address on where we want to send the notification email to. This is the maximum message size, the maximum number of messages in the mailbox, and whether or not to attach a voicemail to the email. To send the email with the attachment, just the email itself, or don't notify at all. We also have some options down below on how we want to record our greeting for this voicemail. We can record via the phone by following these instructions. We can order a custom greeting by selecting a template here and filling in the fields. After clicking Save, the order will be placed for this template and will be ready after a business day or two. We can also choose to upload our own WAV file as a greeting. Lastly, there are instructions here to retrieve your voicemails by phone. When you're all done, you can click Save Settings. Our next option to look at is the call logs. By clicking Details, we can see a brief history of the calls that we've received on this particular number and within this given date range and time. If you'd like to block a certain number from calling you in future, you can click the checkbox and click Block. Under our Messages column, we can see if we have any messages for that extension. By clicking on the extension, we can see a list of the messages here. We can play them, click the box to delete or block that particular number from calling you again, the extension it came in on. You can add a name to the address book for this number and the date and the time that the call came in. Our last field is whether or not we want to record the calls. If calls are recorded, they will be held on our server temporarily, at which time you can download them. You can go to the Add Extension wizard here to add new extensions, and when you're all done here, click Save.